At the time of my husband's arrest, I had 2 children at that time, 4 years and 2 years old. My husband was a minicab driver at the time, and we had quite a comfortable life. One morning, very early, we had prayed Fajr. I heard many footsteps come into the front door, and my husband looked out of the peephole and he said, "Quickly get dressed." And as the banging on the door started, I took the kids, went into one room and quickly put hijab on as best I could before they broke entry anyway. They had cameras, lights shining, which really frightened me, because then I thought, are these even police? I've never heard or seen at that time this before. The children were crying. They were upset. They were confused. They didn't really understand. They were so young. They then told me that I had to leave the house with the children. They took my money, my phone, everything. I wasn't allowed my bank card. I wasn't allowed anything. Money was taken. It was out of savings. I had to keep asking questions. You haven't left me with any money, so now I have to walk wherever I'm going to get to. Even my bank card, at least give me my bank card. And it was just very, rough answers. No, very to the point. There wasn't any kind of understanding as the person, I'm not in trouble here. They didn't come for me. But still, they made sure that I felt very uncomfortable. They searched my children, which obviously I think probably is what impacted my older one a little bit more into feeling like he was quite scared. He was very protective over his dad. So he kept saying, where's can I see my dad? Where's my dad? He was crying. He was asking them, crying and asking them to see him. And when we left the house, when we were told that we had to leave the house, he did not want to leave the house. And, 4-year-olds, if they don't want to do something, they're not going to do it. But when I was searched, he went a bit quieter. He was 4, it just took his mind. And when he was searched, he went even quieter. And he didn't really talk for the rest of that day. And then obviously as the months and weeks went on, years to be honest, the way he felt came out even more. So I left, and literally 8 o'clock in the morning was just walking the streets in shock. No idea what to do, no idea where to go, and not really thinking. It was a bit of a cloud around me, because I was very concerned that I left him in the house with up to 20 police officers. He hadn't been arrested, so I just had no idea what was going on. I was thinking about, are they going to take him to a secret prison in the UK? I had no idea. Just took my thoughts into very uncertain places and made me feel vulnerable. I was just so worried about him, but at the same time trying to make the children feel like, oh, nothing's happened, never mind. Just trying to act normal, even though this was very far from normal. And I was even more confused because, subhanAllah, I'm thinking that they've taken him, they've done a secret rendition, he's gone to another country, I'm thinking all these crazy thoughts. But that's when he told me, actually, he's been placed on a control order and he'll have to leave the city in 3 days to live on his own, isolated, into a new house, into a new city, where he would have many restrictions put on him. Life under control order is hard. The restrictions are so many, and they will continue to add to restrictions. He had a perimeter of where he could go, signing on at the police station every single day. This meant that, you can't look for work. You can't, mashallah, he's a very hard-working person. And probably for him, this was probably the most difficult, is not earning, because it's not the type of person he is. They give you the list of those that you're not allowed to speak to under any circumstances. There's a curfew that he was given, so if his cat was out, he couldn't go out and get her from the garden or anything. Daily searches, the police would come conduct full raids of the house, really intrusive, and really mental games is what it was like. So it was very difficult trying to now understand what our finances were, and that essentially we had 2 houses that we had to run. There's still bills. He still needs food himself. He's not working now. He cannot work. And sometimes we would go to stay with him, so that means we'd need more shopping at that house. But at the same time, my son was starting school, so these are additional costs that I never had before. So it was really difficult, and I do believe him being the type of person he is, he went without. It was tough that time. It was really tough. My eldest, before he started school, he would go stay with him. He would be like, I want to go stay with my dad. It just meant that, you know, the two children are not together. And I struggled with that a little bit, to be honest, not to be with him. But then we had to stop that. If, you know, God forbid, they had arrested my husband for breaking any of his conditions, then what would have happened to my son? That was difficult because he didn't understand. I had to start being the psychologist to try and help him through his temper tantrums that he was starting to develop. Now, not being with his dad, he was starting to get quite angry and aggressive. And it was very sad to watch because he's a very, mashallah, very happy child before this, like very, very sweet, very kind. And now trying to help him through that, trying to now educate him, it was really tough. It was tough on him as well. And it was difficult, you know, trying to keep everyone's spirits up when this is actually a really hard test. This is actually a really hard thing for a family to have to go through, a young family. Alhamdulillah, we managed it somehow, Allah's mercy. But it was tough. For my family, it was a very big shock. My family are not Muslim. They just couldn't understand. We did have issues with a few of my family members who unfortunately stopped talking to us during that period because they believed that there was no smoke without fire. There were people in the community that said, you know, I don't want to talk to you during this period. That people would kind of call up to check on me, but really they were trying to find information. You know, they wanted me to trip up or something. I didn't hear from them again for several years. I felt like I couldn't please everybody at that time, and that was really difficult for me. I'm usually the one that's like, oh, don't worry, you know, everything's going to be okay. And although I was doing that, it wasn't working. Whether the children were having a particular low day, he was having a particularly low day, or I was having a particularly low day. And it was frustrating, very frustrating, to just not have a bit of normality in the house and not to be able to just, you know, say alhamdulillah and everything's okay. You know, we think that fixes everything. Although I was even grateful at that time that, you know, alhamdulillah, we're still living, you know, we're still breathing. It became like, I had to learn how to be okay with not being okay. The visits to go and see him were quite infrequent in the beginning. He didn't want to burden us, especially he didn't want us to travel there on our own. I wasn't driving. The children were small. After maybe a few weeks, we were fortunate enough for a brother to take us to see him. After that, I did try to figure out how to get there on my own. This now caused more of a financial burden, but we wanted to see him. It was better when we went there. Like, it was better for the children that when we went there. Whether I decided to go and spend Ramadan there or I spent Ramadan in my own place in London, it was very lonely either way. We couldn't go to the mosque where he was, like couldn't go for Taraweh because he had a curfew. Likewise, if I was in my own place, can't go for Taraweh, I'm on my own, and he's not there anyway. So, you know, I don't have any Muslim family. We were either together alone or I was just alone with the children. We went to the Eid prayer, but you don't know one person, you know. And even the Eid prayer, it was a special allowance that we had to get from the Home Office in order to be able to even go in the first place. And we had a certain amount of time that we could be there for before we would have to leave. So it wasn't the same at all. It was very lonely. I was really excited about him coming back, but I soon learned that the test wasn't over. Whether him being back or not, this is now a few years that we had spent in a very unusual, intense situation. And I didn't realise that him just walking through the front door and now living with us full time isn't going to fix everything that we've just been through. So my excitement was quite short-lived. It was that's when I realised, although we had all gone through this test together, it was a different test for everybody involved. And I didn't think that it would be a struggle even for him to come back to the family home. I thought it would be easy and it would be a happy occasion. But of course, this person's just gone through so much, so much restrictions and so much loneliness that of course it's not just going to go away like that. The eldest one, he was never secure in certainty that his dad was back. So it was always like, where are you going? Like, his dad's going to the shop, he's going to work, he's going, anywhere that he's going, where are you going? How long are you going to be? It's a lot of questioning because he needed that reassurance that, yeah, Baba's not going to leave again. I can't really show, when things are getting tough, but the vulnerability comes out anyway. And, it was exhausting. I was pregnant that time and having to do the back and forth visits, it really took a toll on me. I had to stop, any extra activities that I was previously doing, working for the charity that I was working for. I had to take a complete step back from everything and just be, just try to keep my head above and just try work through this. And alhamdulillah, a really nice sister called me and, very apologetic, I'm really sorry this has happened to you, sister. Is there anything we can do for you immediately? Alhamdulillah, they helped with the shopping vouchers, which were a massive help. We could both have, plenty of food in the house, alhamdulillah. I didn't have to worry. And alhamdulillah, even the coach that I used to get to see him, they paid for it as well. SubhanAllah, I was really ill and I said, SubhanAllah, who is going to help me with the kids? At that time, I don't mind just staying here on my own, but I can't look after them. Alhamdulillah, literally within 10 minutes, a brother had agreed from HHUGS to drive us there. So that was, 2.5 hours that this brother was going to go out of his way just to take us there. So that we could all at least be together and my husband could help with the kids. It wasn't just money. SubhanAllah, the key workers, they're amazing. She would check in with me, make sure everything was okay. And, usually you're not going to ask for stuff, but SubhanAllah, she would offer it, do you need this? We have this service, and, do you think you would benefit from some counselling? And what about your son? Because she knew how worried I was about him. So, alhamdulillah, my key worker, she was a great contact for me. I managed to get, all the help that I needed at that time through her. Ramadan and Eid, they would get sent a little parcel with some activities for them to do, or a gift on Eid, a Eid cake. And they would always say, oh, it's from HHUGS, but they had no idea what HHUGS was or who they were. I think they actually thought it was a person. And alhamdulillah, they started to really look forward to that. I really don't know how I would have coped without the help that HHUGS offered me. The things that really got me down and really stressed me out were literally the things that HHUGS just picked up and did for me. I could just concentrate on being okay, rather than having to worry about feeding 2 homes, travelling. Without that, I don't know. SubhanAllah, I really don't know how I would have got through it. HHUGS is family. That's what they are. Hugs are the family that are there for you when your own family have turned their back. They never question. It's completely like non-judgmental, supportive family. They do the work that no other charity is doing. No one is there to pick up the pieces, to help with the children, to help with the finances, to help with the burden that really the woman is left with after these anti-terror raids. And usually it comes out of nowhere, sweeps you off your feet, that you kind of lose all sense of what is normal. And for me, when I managed to get in contact with HHUGS, just put so much ease in my heart. And I know that that's how it's been for many of the families that have been with HHUGS, all of them really. And I would really encourage people to be generous and to support HHUGS, because the beneficiaries are not getting help from anywhere else. They are left on their own with very little support. Emotionally, they have no one to turn to. Even now with the current climate and the coronavirus, and we're now on isolate, like some people are in isolation, we're on a partial lockdown. Look at how the families of HHUGS, and this is how they feel on a normal daily basis. They're cut off from the community. They cannot talk to certain people. They feel like the community's turned their back on them. This would be a really good time for us to show them our support.